Chapter 5, Friends Come Around. Pick as many daisies as you can, Anna told everyone. We're going to make daisy chains. All 8 girls fanned out across the meadow. It was the day of the barn raising, and they were picking wildflowers. The day was clear and sunny, and Kirsten's spirit swooped and soared like the bluebirds. She stopped to look across the meadow to where the men were working on the barn. Just after sunrise, they began to haul the baked beans up with strong ropes, and by late morning, there was the outline of a barn where there had been only open sky. The prairie didn't seem so wide with a new barn there. Kirsten hoped Missy had kept her kittens out of the way of the workers. Later, she looked for the kittens. Now she buried her nose in the sweet-smelling bouquet she held. While the girls had picked all the flowers that they could carry, they took them back to Aunt Inger's house and decorated the big room with daisy chains. Then they sat outside under the dappled shade of the maple tree to sew. Kirsten had not finished the design on her square, but the other girls had finished theirs. When they laid them together on the grass, the squares made a lively pattern of blues, reds, greens, browns, and white. Mary arranged them. We'll use a running stitch to join the squares. This part will go quickly, she said. Kirsten hoped it wouldn't go too quickly. She knelt with her friends in a circle, chattering away as they joined their squares to make the top of a small quilt. After the noon meal, the girls took up their sewing again. By the middle of the afternoon, they finished stitching the top of their quilt to a plain backing. Kirsten knelt with her friends in a circle, chattering away as they joined their squares. This quilt isn't as large or heavy as the one Miss Winston has, Kirsten said. It's a summer coverlet, Mary explained. No one has had an extra blanket to sew between the layers. I'm sure Miss Winston will like it, though, Kirsten added. Anna giggled and hid her smile behind her hand. Anyway, I think it's lovely, Kirsten went on. Now that she was with her friends again, she felt more strongly how much she'd missed them. Mary was folding up the quilt when Aunt Inger called from the doorway. Aren't you girls ready for some sweets? Everyone shouted, yes, at the same time and ran into the house. Let me get Mama, Kirsten said, but Mama was already coming from the kitchen carrying a heart-shaped cake. Kirsten caught her breath with pleasure. Miss Winston clapped her hands and pretended to be stern. Everyone must sit in a circle, she said. Happy birthday, Kirsten, Elizabeth said. She placed a wreath of flowers on Kirsten's head. The blossoms tickled Kirsten's ears through her long hair. Thank you, Elizabeth, she said. You look beautiful, Anna said. Now the cake, Mama called. When everyone was munching, Aunt Inger said, I have something for your birthday, Kirsten. She gave Kirsten a small package. New hair ribbons. Pink is my favorite color. Thank you, Aunt Inger, Kirsten said. Now Mama stepped forward, and I made you something pretty for dress up. She handed Kirsten a white apron with fancy trim around the edges. Oh, Mama, it's lovely, Kirsten said. But when did you have time to make this? Miss Winston leaned close and whispered, where there's a will, there's always a way. I could wear this tonight at the barn raising dance, couldn't I? You may wear it and the hair ribbons. Mama smiled. As Aunt Inger spooned strawberries into bowls and covered them with fresh cream, Mary stood up, brushed crumbs off her skirt, and straightened her shoulders importantly. Now we have something to give to Kirsten. She crossed the room, picked up a little quilt they had just finished sewing, and proudly handed it to Kirsten. Happy birthday, Kirsten, from all of us, she said. Kirsten blinked. Oh, thank you. But why are you giving this to me? It was for Miss Winston, she added in a whisper. I told the girls that one quilt is enough for anyone, Miss Winston said with a smile. And we're giving this one to you because you missed out on the fun of making it, Elizabeth explained. We want you to know we didn't forget you, even when you weren't with us. Anna took a corner of the quilt and spread it on the table. See these plain squares? We put the plain ones in so we could write our names on them. Then it will be a friendship quilt just like Miss Winston's. Miss Winston took a quill pen and an ink pot from her school bag. You must use your best handwriting, she directed the girls. I don't want to see a single ink spot or smudge on this quilt. Kirsten stroked the edge of her quilt as each girl took a turn signing her name on one of the plain squares. When all the squares had been signed, Miss Winston wrote on the border of the quilt with her most beautiful writing, "For Kirsten Larson," on her 10th birthday. It was late afternoon when the women began preparing supper. The men had finished raising the roof beams for the new barn, and now they used the extra boards to make wide tables. The girls set out pitchers of water and beer, and the women opened their baskets and laid out cheeses, breads, jam, butter, hams, roasted chickens, and cakes. The big pot of venison stew gave off a spicy scent. Everyone sat down to enjoy the feast, chatting and calling to one another, and the sun began to set. Kirsten was almost too happy to be hungry. There would never be another day like this one, she was sure. As the sky darkened, lanterns were hung on the cross beams of the barn. Some of the men took out fiddles, and the barn-raising dance began. Under the lanterns, the grown-ups danced to the tunes. Yankee tunes, German tunes, and Swedish tunes followed each other like the swirling dancers. The children made circle dances of their own around the edges. The full moon shone down through their open rafters like the biggest lantern of all. Kirsten was skipping with Anna when she felt Papa's hand on her shoulder. "Come on, 10-year-old, Papa said in his deep voice. "This is your birthday dance with me." The fiddlers were playing a spinning waltz. Papa clasped Kirsten firmly around her waist. She hung on to his shoulders, and they joined the grown-ups in the center of the new barn. Kirsten smelled Papa's good, clean sweat and the smell of new wood. Sometimes her feet left the floor when Papa swung her around, and the faces of the other dancers spun by like a moving daisy chain, but Papa guided her and kept her steady. Come on, 10-year-old, Papa said. "This is your birthday dance with me." When the waltz was over, Kirsten was so excited she felt dizzy. Or maybe she just whirled around too many times. She left Papa in the crowd and went to rest on the back of one of the wagons. As she sat quietly in the moonlight, she saw Missy moving her kittens into the new barn. One by one, Missy lifted the kittens between the pots and into a dark corner. Kirsten counted 4 kittens. Where was the fifth one? Where was the little gray kitten? Kirsten jumped up and went to look for it in a pile of straw where she'd seen them all before. She got down on her hands and knees and searched. Then she heard a tiny mew. There was the gray kitten, but Missy didn't seem to be coming back. Maybe she had given up on this kitten. Kirsten took the kitten into her hand. She cupped it against her cheek and then snuggled it into the deep pocket of her new apron. She could feed it cow's milk, and it would grow strong. She would care for it, and it would live. As Kirsten walked back to the new barn, the crowd began coming out. The men hitched their horses to the wagons. The women gathered up their baskets and sleepy children. Again and again, Papa and Uncle Olaf thanked their neighbors. The women and girls hugged, then waved. "Goodbye, goodbye, good night," echoed across the dark fields as the wagons pulled away. Kirsten headed up to the cabin. When she opened the door, there was Mama, rocking the new baby in her cradle. "Aren't you weary, Kirsten?" Mama asked. Peter tried to stay awake, but you can see he fell asleep in his clothes. Kirsten pulled her little stool next to Mama's chair. She liked the steady creak the rocking cradle made. She took the kitten out of her pocket and showed it to Mama. "Missy left this one behind. I'm going to feed it. When it wakes up, dip a corner of a hanky into milk and let it suck," Mama suggested. "Tomorrow, we'll see if Missy wants her little one back." It was good to be in the quiet cabin with Mama, but Kirsten was much too excited to be able to sleep yet. She put the kitten in her lap, then laid her friendship quilt over her knees and tucked it close. After a moment, the kitten began to purr. Kirsten picked up the quilt square she hadn't been able to finish and started to sew her design again. "What will you do with that square?" Mama asked in a sleepy voice. Kirsten thought for a moment. I think I'll begin a quilt for our baby. It will take a long time to make, but that doesn't matter. I should have it finished before the weather gets cold again. What a special gift that will be, Mama said. Kirsten smiled at Mama. Remember you told me how glad you were to have a daughter? Is it better to have 2 daughters? Mama leaned to kiss Kirsten's cheek. It's very good to have 2 daughters, but you are my only Kirsten. Happy birthday, dear. Mew.